A draconian new law went into effect August 25th that institutes extreme censorship of the internet on a global basis. Michael Snyder reports, the internet just changed forever, but most people living in the United States don't even realize what just happened. A draconian new law known as the Digital Services Act went into effect in the European Union on Friday, and it establishes an extremely strict regime of internet censorship that is far more authoritarian than anything we have ever seen before. From this point forward, hordes of European bureaucrats will be the arbiters of what is acceptable to say on the internet. If they discover something that you have said on a large online platform that they do not like, they can force that platform to take it down because someone in Europe might see it. So even though this is a European law, the truth is that it's going to have a tremendous impact on all of us. From this point forward, nothing will be the same. It's being reported that the DSA literally makes large tech companies legally accountable for the content posted on them. The European Union Digital Services Act, DSA, has officially gone into effect. Starting on August 25, 2023, tech giants like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and more must comply with sweeping legislation that holds online platforms legally accountable for the content posted to them. Even though this new law was passed in the EU, the European Union, we'll likely see far-reaching global effects as companies adjust their policies to comply. Initially, there will be 19 giant online platforms that will be forced to comply with this new law, ranging from social media platforms to online marketplaces and search engines. The list so far includes Facebook, TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat, Amazon Booking, AliExpress, Zalando, Google Shopping, Wikipedia, Google Maps, Google and Apple's mobile app stores, Google Search, and Microsoft's Bing. You see, notice that some are not on there. What about RUMBL? What about Patreon? I don't think my Patreon accounts are on. My Patreon account is only for members. And I do have sensitive material on there. So if you'd like, you can please join. Now going back to this, but starting on February 24th, 2024, the Digital Services Act will start applying to a much broader spectrum of online platforms that have fewer than 45 million monthly users. We're being told that this new law will establish clear rules that online platforms must follow. That will include censoring anything that is deemed false or misleading under the strengthening code of practice on disinformation. So what kind of speech is the DSA expected to police? Last year's strengthening code of practice on disinformation defines disinformation as false or misleading content that is spread with an intention to deceive or secure economic or political gain and which may cause public harm. The code has already been put to work during elections and to respond to crises such as COVID and the war in Ukraine. And it really does not matter if material that European bureaucrats consider to be false or misleading is actually false or misleading at all. And what matters is that if online platforms do not comply with what they are being told to do, they will pay dearly. Online platforms that don't comply with the DSA's rules could see fines of up to 6% of their global turnover, according to the EU Commission. The Digital Services Coordinator and the Commission will have the power to require immediate actions, whether necessary to address very serious harms. A platform continually refusing to comply could result in a temporary suspension in the EU. Big tech companies will be desperate to avoid such penalties, of course, and so they will obey. And so that means that hundreds of unelected EU bureaucrats will be in control of speech on the internet now. Under this Orwellian regime, a team of hundreds of unelected EU bureaucrats will decide what constitutes disinformation and instruct big tech firms to censor it. The firms themselves, faced with reputational risk and financial penalties, will have little choice other than to comply. And this can be done in all manner of ways, simply by human moderators removing content, by shadow banning problematic creators to reduce their reach, by demonetizing certain content and by tweaking algorithms to favor or disfavor certain topics. And though, legally speaking, the DSA only applies in the EU, once installed inside big tech firms, this vast content regulation apparatus will surely affect users in the rest of the world as well. We're being told that the EU bureaucrats will also be working with quote-unquote trusted flaggers to help identify content that needs to be censored. The DSA's trusted flaggers, quote-unquote, are entities with proven expertise in flagging harmful or illegal content to platforms. The new regulations provides that their content flagging shall be prioritized by platforms when moderating content. You might be tempted to think that you will be able to avoid all of the censorship because you do not live in Europe. Unfortunately, that is simply not true. If you post something that someone in Europe might see, your content comes under the jurisdiction of this horrifying new law. So you need to brace yourself for a level of internet censorship that none of us have ever seen before. In addition, most of the large tech companies that must comply with this new law are based in the United States, and it turns out that the Federal Trade Commission actually sent officials to Europe in March to assist in the implementation of this new law on U.S. soil. U.S. Senate Commerce Committee Ranking Member Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, today sent letters to Federal Trade Commission FTC Chairwoman Lina Khan and the head of the European Union San Francisco office, demanding answers regarding the degree of coordination between the FTC and the EU to enforce the EU's Digital Services Act, DSA, and Digital Markets Act, DMA, on U.S. soil. Both foreign laws were written to weaken American tech companies, particularly in Europe. There are no corollary federal laws to the DSA and DMA, making the FTC's efforts to conspire with foreign regulators against U.S. business unprecedented. The FTC announced in March that it was sending agency officials to Brussels to assist the EU in implementing these laws, while the EU opened a San Francisco office to pressure U.S. tech companies to comply with them. From this point forward, it is going to become much more difficult to share alternative views on the internet. Personally, there will be certain things that I will only be able to share in my books or with the paid subscribers of my Substack newsletter. It says I'm going to need to be more careful about what I share from now on, because if I say something publicly on the internet that offends the bureaucrats in Europe, I could get into really big trouble. And that is going to apply to every other independent journalist as well. For a long time, the internet allowed ordinary people like you and orderly people like me to share truth with a world that was desperate for it, but now the gatekeepers are exerting a draconian level of control, and the internet will never ever be the same again. Michael Snyder reports, and this is authored by Michael Snyder. He says, "My name is Michael. My brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I have also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are published on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter. In any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.